Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we will be discussing dyslexia in the classroom. Now, before we get into the meat of what dyslexia is and what it is not, I want us to take a quick second to engage in a demonstration, if you will, or an exercise. Take a few moments and read this passage aloud. I will dedicate about 20 seconds to the screencast, but of course, if you need more time, feel free to pause the video and again, take a quick second, read this passage aloud. Did you have any difficulty? If so, you were able to experience life like a person who has to work with dyslexia. Now, let's talk about what dyslexia is. Dyslexia is a type of disorder that affects the way adults and children connect the letters they see on paper with the sounds those words make. It is a language-based disability, anywhere from spoken language to reading, spelling, writing, and pronouncing words. And this does spill over into math and other types of language where you are seeing what is written, but you cannot quite match up the sounds correctly to what is being written. Now, let's take a quick moment to discuss what dyslexia is not, because there are several misconceptions about what dyslexia is, and so if we can correct our misconceptions, we can move forward and hopefully gain a better insight into what dyslexia is by understanding what it is not. What dyslexia is not is seeing letters or words backwards. Again, if we reference that exercise that we did at the beginning of this presentation, none of the letters were flipped or backwards. There were letters replaced with other letters and some letters that were incorrect to create a word, but we did not have any letters or words backwards. Dyslexia is not also something that can be outgrown. If a child is diagnosed with dyslexia, that child will have dyslexia for the rest of his life. And it is also not a result of laziness or a lack of effort. Dyslexia is a disability that is prevalent, that a person has no control over whether or not he can actually overcome in the sense of never having to deal with dyslexia again. But with dedicated educators and a dedicated support system, an individual with dyslexia can overcome it in the sense that he can be given the proper support needed to work with dyslexia and manage it so that he can still maintain a proper quality of life. Now, dyslexia is a type of specific learning disorder. SLDs encompass the most common category for exceptional learners as classified by IDEA in 2004. Now, speaking of IDEA and specific learning disabilities, how does all of this manage to be put into a classroom? Why are we talking about this anyway? And it's because studies have shown that at least 1 in 10 people are thought to be affected by dyslexia. Now, other reports put that number as high as 20% of people deal with some sort of dyslexia, and therefore it is a very prevalent issue that needs to be addressed and supported throughout the classroom. Now, if we have students who are having difficulty reading and understanding the words on pages, how can we better help them succeed in the classroom? Well, we have a couple of options. According to this one graphic, many schools help dyslexic students within the classrooms by giving students more time on tests or using computer software where they can type rather than write. I personally would like to take a look at this middle one, listening to tapes and helping them sound out letters and words. This is huge. If a student can't read or write very well, perhaps then they can listen a little better, and as opposed to reading and writing, and be able to succeed in a classroom audibly rather than visually. Some other ways to help students are listening to your students. If your students are coming to you saying that they need support and are feeling frustrated because they can't understand the words, take that to heart and see that there is a possibility that your student might be dyslexic. Repeating directions is often very helpful for dyslexic students. If the words are written on the page in such a way that it is giving your students difficulty, repeating the directions audibly, again, gives them a chance to understand the directions in such a way that's not confusing for them. Of course, you can also skip down and clarify and simplify written instructions. Oftentimes, instructions written in paragraph form can be difficult for dyslexic students to read and understand. And so if you can clarify, simplify, maybe even highlight or underline your most pertinent parts of your instructions, that can greatly help a student overcome dyslexia in that particular situation. And educators, for your math classes, if you can have your students turn line paper vertically for math problems, the lines can act as columns that help students keep better track of the numbers and the proper columns so that the numbers don't get mixed around and confuse your students even more. I hope you've enjoyed this quick discussion on dyslexia, and hopefully we can band together as educators and support our dyslexic students and peers in the field of academia.